Hey everybody, today I want to show you how to call backend functions from the client, meaning from the browser. So while I was developing my library, LSQ, I thought about this problem, right? So what do we usually do in order to accomplish this? We have to define a new route, right? And then the route is going to call the actual function, or it's going to perform whatever in the backend. And then in the front end, we're going to consume that endpoint, right? And we have to do some AJAX call or whatever. We could do that, or we could perhaps make use of tRPC, right? In any case, I thought about it for a second, and I thought that there must be a better way, right? Wouldn't it be nice if we could just call the functions and that's it? I mean, if we think about it, um, we're running JavaScript in the front end and potentially in the backend as well, right? So why do we have to add this extra layer of work, right? Uh, is there no way for us to actually just uh, call the same function? I mean, we're talking the same, like literally, we're talking the same language, JavaScript. And this is when I came up with a pretty interesting idea on how to do this. So let's begin with a simple demonstration. In here, this is a well, I suppose we could. Well, this is a code that's gonna run in the browser, right, in the client. And so we're gonna draw a button, and when we click on the button, we're gonna call this function, right, which is this one. Now, this is where I want to call some potentially function that lives in the backend, but I don't want to do, I don't want to take the traditional route, right? I don't want to have to define restful routes, so on and so forth, right? So, what if I could, um, what if I could just call the function, right? So let's define the function first in the backend. This is a file that lives in the backend, right? And I'm going to define a new function, and I suppose I can call it API something, right? And this is going to be a function called API something, right? And in here, we're just going to say hello. And that's it, right? This is the function that lives in the backend. Let's go back to the browser and let's pretend that we can call the function right within the browser. So we're going to say API something, and you can see a little bit of a hint. You can see that out of the box we're getting autocomplete, even though we're in the front end. Let's do that. Let's refresh and let's see what happens when I click this button. Click on this button, nothing seems to happen, but if we open up the terminal, we will see hello printed in the console. Now remember, this is all happening in the server, right? So how was I was literally able to call a backend function within the browser. Now, how did I do it, right? It's actually quite simple. If we go back to the file in the server, you can see that we're defining the function, but we're doing so by modifying this global variable, which without going into too much detail, this is just a global variable, an object that you can add new fields, right? And in here, what we're doing is, well, in this global object, we're going to define a new field called API something, and this is going to contain the function, okay? So that's for the server, right? That's literally it. We don't need to do anything else. If we go to the client, into the browser, we'll see that we're including the actual file, the backend file, which is this one. We're including that file, but also we're including this bridge file. Now, in this bridge file, what we're doing is we're looking for all the functions with an API prefix, right? We're gonna gather all of those functions that are that were defined in this global this variable, right? And we're gonna say, well, for each one of these functions, we're gonna create a bridge, right? Which is the term or the word that I came up with for this, right? We're gonna create a bridge so that the client can talk to the backend, right? And later execute this function, right? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to replace the real function, again defined in this global variable. We're going to replace that with a function that the only thing that's going to do is going to perform a post request to a special route that lives in the server, right? Which is this one, right? And so we're gonna say, well, whenever the browser or the client wants to call this backend server, we're gonna call this instead, right? We're gonna say we're gonna perform an AJAX request to the server. We're gonna say, hey, the client wants to execute this function, right? Or we're gonna pass the function name. Plus, we're going to pass the parameters or the arguments as a JSON in the body, right? And so this special route is going to know, oh, the client wants to call this function, so I'm going to do so, and I'm going to pass whatever parameters I can find in the body, right? From this function, I'm going to get some kind of answer, some kind of response or result, and in the client, we're going to just convert that into JSON, right? And so that's pretty much it. We're just replacing the real function with a post request that the server can interpret, and execute. So anyways, I hope you find this interesting. But to me, this is very, very interesting. And I'm actually a bit surprised that nobody came up with this way of solving this problem. We could have had this literally like for years now, but for some reason, again, um, we didn't, and it was just a matter of using global functions. So, anyways, guys, if you wanna go into details, you can check out the GitHub repository. Thanks.